Today on Think Smart with TMFG, I've got a major announcement to make. Mike Connon, my business partner for over 30 years, appears to be thinking of running for government.
Yeah, it seems there's positions available up top, isn't there?
It does. There's a federal election coming up.
Yeah.
You just have to put the money together.
Would anyone want that job?
Never
right
in
now?
a million years. So I'm just joking. April Fool's Day is coming up, or maybe it's recently passed. But Mike, I thought, this is a podcast idea that you had, and you thought about these tariffs, and you weren't thinking about all the harm that Donald Trump is causing with the tariffs. You actually went to the other side and said, well, what if we had reciprocal tariffs?
Well, we're going to have reciprocal tariffs, right? So let's just go and start to identify what that would be. So if you look at how much we import from the U.S., we import, even though Donald Trump says it's this one-way situation, we import $470 billion worth of goods from the U.S.
Okay, so that's a lot of money. It's almost $500 billion.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's a lot of money.
$500 billion, yeah.
Right?
So there's an enormous amount imported. So let's say we have the 25% tariff. That seems to be the number that's been kicked around today. Today. We don't know where it's going to be tomorrow. But today, at this date, it's about a 25%. That would give us $117 billion in revenue for the government.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. So what I was thinking, if I was running this country and I was silly enough to take that position, what would we do with that $117 billion worth of new annual revenue we have?
Okay, so what could we do with it? Looks like a lot of money.
So let's start off with a major problem in Canada. What's the biggest problem that everyone talks about?
High tax rate?
High tax rate and our debt.
Huge debt.
So we have tons of debt. Canada has about $1.4 trillion worth of debt.
Okay.
Now, that's a serious problem.
So that's trillion. We've moved from billions to trillion.
So we're next level.
So it's about 3 times what you'd get from the tariffs on an annual basis.
And it's close to 60% of the GDP of Canada, right?
Okay.
And
so that's our total. Let's go back to GDP. That's the total goods and services that this country produces over a year.
Yep.
And our debt,
60% of that.
60% of that. So that's pretty high.
Yep.
Not the highest, but
it is up
high.
There. And if you break that down per taxpayer, so it comes out to be about $41,000 for every taxpayer in Canada. That's what you owe, right? So $41,000 per taxpayer.
So it's like everyone's got their own debt, credit cards, mortgages, etc., maybe lines of credit. Plus, they got an additional $41,000 that the government has borrowed on their behalf.
Yeah. And do you think the government borrows this for free?
No, they got to pay the same. They got to pay market rate. When they borrow money, they got to go out into the market and they've got to pay an interest rate to get the money. It's really simple. No different than you and I. You and I have to pay. If we go and borrow $500,000 to put on a down payment on a house, we're going to pay interest. Government is no different. They may get a better rate than you because they're the government. Still expensive.
But even at today's rates, 5%, that's $70 billion a year in interest. $70 billion.
Because we had the $1 trillion of debt, right?
Yeah. So that's created $70 billion a year worth of interest, right? So let's say we just went to go and pay this off. We took the money we're taking tariffs and put it toward that. It's like a 20-year plan. We could be debt-free in Canada.
We've all seen that people get a salary increase.
Yeah.
Okay? And, maybe they get a $10,000 wage increase, and so after tax, they're getting, call it $5,000.
Yeah.
And the financial advisor in you is going to tell them to do what? Pay down debt?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
What do most of them do?
They go spend it.
They spend $4,000 of it.
Yep.
Improve their lifestyle, and then maybe put $1,000 towards debt.
And believe it or not, government's worse than people.
Right, they are. You would think they would just continue to loan that money out or borrow even more.
So let's look at the next option. Now, I don't think this would happen, but if I was running this country,
okay,
let's talk about tax cuts, because we could just give this money being taken from the people. It would almost make sense to give back to the people, wouldn't it? I know it's a silly concept that would never show up in the government, but if we look at that, in Canada, there's 28 million people that file taxes in Canada. Okay. I know the population's 38 million, but there's kids and things like that.
Right, that don't file.
So there's 28 million people that file taxes in Canada. Believe it or not, 40% of those people don't pay any taxes.
That's a lot of people.
A lot of people that don't pay taxes.
So when we're talking, we believe we're talking to the audience. We think we're talking to the 28 million on how to reduce their taxes, but 40% of those 28 million don't pay any taxes.
No.
So we shouldn't be giving them a refund. Should we give them more? Like, should we give them a credit?
You don't pay any taxes. So you're getting everything for free, right? So at the point, you can't re-give this money back. So in here. So there's actually, when you do the numbers, there's about 16.8 million people in Canada that pay taxes. Okay. So again, we have 38 million people, 16.8 million people pay taxes. So if we gave that money back to them, it would be about $7,000 per taxpayer. So that's an option. I don't think it would ever happen, but it could happen.
Do you think this is how the politicians try and figure out?
No, not at all.
No? I kind of think they do, because they do this math and they go, we could give every Canadian $7,000.
See, they think it's their money.
Well, that is true. What else could we do with it?
We talk about the future going and of Canada. I mean, this gets a little bit political, but a lot of the problems in Canada over the last 10 years have been caused by, and I love the environment. As we said, we're cottage people. We love the environment. But the whole push against oil and gas and minerals in Canada has done a lot of damage to Canada. We have one of the largest oil reserves in the world, and we have no refining capacity at all. Pipelines have been stopped. We have no shipping ability, no refining ability. It makes us basically reliant on the U.S. to refine our oil. For a product that we produce, we have to rely on the U.S. When U.S. was friendly and everything was good, that was great. If U.S. is changing to be a non-friendly country with us, why are we having them take advantage of all our cheap oil to refine it?
So I'm going to use a simple example. Let's say you've got the skill set to be one of the best hockey players in the world. Canadians love hockey, right? Yep. We saw that, in the recent World Cup thing, the four nation tournament.
Yeah.
So imagine you've got all the skills to be a great hockey player, but you don't have any skates.
Yeah.
You don't have any sticks. You don't have any equipment. You're not going to make it to the NHL.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we have. We've got all these resources. We kind of got to use these resources. We don't love the fact that it's oil and gas, but we know oil and gas isn't going away.
The problem is refineries aren't cheap, right? So this is when we talk about refineries. A refinery costs between $5 and $15 billion. Again, we're into the big B's, $1 billion to build along the way. But when we talked about the tax revenue we'll get, that gives room to build 10 refineries without a problem and put us back on the map as an oil-producing nation. And again, that can help to solve a lot of economical problems going in the future.
Certainly gives us an advantage. What else could we do?
I guess what the government has said they're going to do. Now, this is the tricky part. The government says they're going to take this tariff money and use it to go back toward the people who are being tariffed. So the idea is you take from one hand and you put into the other hand. And the only thing I find, a lot of times when Canada goes to do this, there's people that find loopholes and ways to take advantage of that. Whenever Canada has offered money in the past, it's like a whole...
like an open bank. It's like the bank's just giving out money. Everybody lines up even if they're not eligible.
It's like during COVID. I watch every COVID scam happen in the world from everyone. As soon as they say there's money available, everyone finds every loophole and every way around it. And the government is very weak on stopping this stuff. And again, once they come up with this, everyone's going to have to find a way where they're affected by, tariffs. And it's going to be companies that aren't actually affected by tariffs. They're going to say, well, that affected my business too. So I worry that that's going to be exploited in a very nasty fashion. So I understand the concept of it makes sense. If you're an automaker and you got hit with tariffs going in, maybe they'll help you out on the other side, maybe help like a Magna or something like that that's being hit with heavy tariffs. But I don't know how well that's going to work.
I always think it's dangerous. We talked about in a previous podcast helping your kids out.
Yeah.
The same applies to companies. So let's use our business, for example. Let's say for some reason the government decided to put a 25% tariff on financial advisory fees. So our fees would go up by 25%. Clients certainly wouldn't be happy. They wouldn't want to pay it. So maybe the government would then give us money to offset the increase in tariffs.
Yeah.
If we had to face a 25% increase, we'd be more competitive. We'd have to figure out how to be more competitive.
You got to rely on your skill set and not rely on governments and protective tariffs to defend your business model. Either your business model is successful or it's not successful. If it's not successful, let it die. And that's the problem with tariffs long term. This is back into the Ronald Reagan speech. Long-term tariffs, all they do is allow your domestic companies to become non-competitive and non-ingenuitive, and they begin to fall behind. And eventually over, let's say if you go through a decade of that, if they're relying on government tariffs to be competitive, they're eventually not going to be competitive anymore.
They don't have a desire. They don't have to work for it. They're getting a free government, call it a bailout.
Yep.
So Mike, are you going to run for government?
I might keep on doing what I'm doing.
That brings us to the end of another week. This is Rob and Mike with Think Smart from the McClelland Financial Group of Assante Capital Management.